So let's look at the base unit, meter. There are prefixes that we add to this to make it smaller, or we can make it bigger. We can add kilo, hecto, or deca. And these prefix makes meter bigger. We can also add deci, centi, or milli. And these prefixes makes meter smaller. So when we add kilo to meter, we get kilometer, and the short for kilometer is km. Hectometer, hm. Decameter, dm, and we use a capital D for this one because there are two prefixes that begins with the letter D. So we use a capital D to show that this is the bigger one. Decimeter, centimeter, millimeter. And all of these shows that meter is bigger or smaller. So I have all my units written out. km, hm, dm, dm, cm, mm. And we can use a dynamic to help us remember this order. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. Now the usually here would stand for unit. So whatever unit it is, if I'm using meter, if I'm using grams, or if I'm using liter, that is what would be in the center. And then this order does not change. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. So let us have a look now how we convert from one unit to another unit. I have 3 meters and I want to convert 3 meters to centimeter. So on my table there, I can see where meters is. So I know that this is my starting point. This is where I want to start. Now I'm changing from meters to centimeters. So it means that I need to go this direction. I need to move to the right to get to centimeters. So I'm going to go 1. I have to stop by dm first before I get to centimeters. And then I'm going to go 2. And I'm here at centimeter. So I just move 2 spaces to the right in order to get to centimeter. So what I can do is to count these spaces and add a 0 to each of them. So 1, 2. So I add 2 zeros in this space, and then my answer becomes 3. Add the 2 zeros, and our centimeters written back. So 3 meters changing to centimeters will give us 300 centimeters. If I did not want to do it this way, I could use a power of 10 to derive at my answer. Which power of 10 has 2 zeros with it? 100. So I know that I'm going to use 100 to change my answer. Now, one of the rules when we are converting says that if you're changing from a big unit to a small unit, we must multiply. So I'm going to draw my arrow going this way, and I'm going to put multiply. And the other rule also says when we're changing from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, then we must divide. So let me draw my arrow again and write my dividing sign. Therefore, if I should follow this rule here, 3 meters equals centimeter, The rule says when I'm moving from big to small, I must multiply. And if I look at my table, so let me put my multiple sign here. My table says that I'm moving 2 spaces to the right. The power of 10 that has 2 zeros is 100. So I know that I will multiply by 100. 3 times 100 will give me 300. Let's try another one. This time I have a decimal number to convert. 14.5 km equals meter. We still need to find out what are we going to do, which direction are we going. Are we going to multiply? Are we going to divide? So we have to use our units to help us decide. We are starting at km. Here's km. And we are going to meters. So it means that I am going in this direction, which is the right. So I know that I will multiply. Now, how many spaces will I need to move to get to meter? I go 1, stop at hectare, 2, stop at dm, and then 3, I am now at meters. So I traveled 3 spaces in order to get to meter. So which power of 10 has 3 zeros? That's right, 1000. So I know that I must multiply by 1000 because we jumped 3 spaces to get to meters. And so the power of 10 that has 3 zeros is 1000. But will I go ahead and add 3 zeros to my number here? No, because this number has a decimal point. And so we need to travel with this decimal point in order to get our answer. So how many spaces should I travel with this decimal point? I will travel 3 spaces. So let me put it back right here so you can see. So I have 14.5 here, and I'm going to travel with my point. I go 1, just like before, 2, just like before, and 3. So my point is now here. Now those 3 spaces that I have traveled, what do you notice about those 3 spaces? One of them is filled with 5. But there are 2 other spaces that are empty. So what do we need to do with these 2 spaces? We are going to fill them with 0. So on my line here, I'm going to write my 1, my 4, because we do not get rid of these. They are still a part of the number. This time I will not put the decimal point beside the 4 because we moved it from there. And so I'm going to write my 5 and the 2 zeros that I placed. Now in this case, the point would have been here because we moved it from the 4 and we brought it to this side. Now we have 29 millimeters and we're changing it to centimeters. So let's look at our table, where we're starting from and where we want to go. So on the table, we're starting here at millimeters. And when we look, centimeter is going to the left. So this means that we are not going to multiply this time. We are going to divide because we are moving to the left. So let's see how many jumps we have to make to get to centimeter. So I'm at millimeter and I jump and I'm here at centimeter. How many jumps did we do? 1. And so the power of 10 that only has 1 zero is 10 itself. So I know that I am going to divide by 10. Now remember, we are moving to this direction. So any moving that we're going to the left. Where do I start from to get to the left? I must start with my digit 9. Now every whole number has an imaginary decimal point. Every whole number. And it is to the end of the last digit. So I'm going to take my marker here, and I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to jump one space. So I jump and I ended up between the 2 and the 9. So I'm going to put my decimal point here because I only jumped one space. So now my answer will become, instead of 29 millimeters, we are going to get 2.9 centimeters. Now we have 8.67 centimeters, and we want to change that to meters. So this time we are working with a decimal number. Now, are we changing from big to small or small to big? We need to look at the table, find out where centimeter is, and find out where we want to get to. We want to get to meters, so it means we're going to the left. So we are changing from small to big. And because we're changing from small to big, we are going to divide. What will we divide by? Let us start out here at centimeters and see how many times we're going to jump. We're going to go 1 and then 2. So we jumped 2 spaces to get to meters. Which powers of 10 has 2 zeros in it? 100. And so we're going to divide by 100. Now, remember we are going to the left. Let me write the number here so you can see it much better. So we are going to the left. So it means that my decimal point will move from here and it will go 2 spaces to the left. So let's move now. 1, 2. And my decimal point ends up here. But what do you notice about the 2 spaces that are there? One of them is filled with a number and one of them is empty. So because we have an empty space right here, we must fill it with a 0. So on my line here now, I'm going to put my decimal point 0 point. On my line here, I'm going to put my decimal point. Then I'm going to write the 0 that I just had. And I'm going to write the 8, the 6, and the 7. So my answer now becomes 0.0867 meters. You can always go ahead and put up 0 here as a placeholder. It does not change the answer. So now that you have learned how to convert units of measurement, all you need to know is that the same thing applies to gram and liter. So whenever you're changing any units that has any of these base units, the same thing applies. Thanks for watching.